Welcome in, everyone, to SEC State of Mind. I'm Taylor Davis, joined, as always, by Jason Campbell, here to break down everything in and around the Southeastern Conference. Week 5 in the rearview mirror, as it always does every single year. You blink and we're kind of halfway through this thing. It really is crazy, but we definitely are seeing some separation at this point, which also makes the storylines a lot more compelling. And there's been a lot of breaking news coming out of week 5. So we are going to cover all of it, the big news and notes. We, of course, have SEC Siren and SEC Standout that we will give out like we do every week. And some more big matchups this weekend that we are going to get you prepped and ready for. We've got the odds and lines from our friends at FanDuel that make this show possible. So jam-packed show. Jay, I think we got to start with the big news, though, coming out of the SEC this past week. We have seen the first head coach get fired. Arkansas has chosen to part ways with Sam Pittman, and Bobby Petrino steps in as the interim head coach. It's already public news that he has made his intentions clear to the athletic director and staff that he would like to be considered for the full-time position moving forward, and he hit the ground running Monday morning, parting ways with several of their defensive staff, including defensive coordinator Travis Williams. So change is afoot in Fayetteville. We kind of suspected this was going to be the case, and a blowout loss, to Notre Dame in Fayetteville was kind of the final straw. So just initial reacts to that news. Like I said, we kind of touched on it on the last episode. The possibility that it was coming soon. Were you surprised to see it happen week 5? And then the ripple effect of things that Bobby Petrino is already putting into place?
Not necessarily surprised. When you think about overall, when they hired Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator, I knew at that point in time that he would probably end up getting back into that head coaching spot. And
Sure.
I don't think Sam Pittman probably had a lot to do with the hire either. Because why would you want someone to come underneath you that's already been a head coach at that university before
Right.
and had success? Because the first time that things didn't go right, then you're on a short leash as far as continuing to stay there as that head coach. I think overall, if you look at their last couple of games, the Ole Miss game, they fumbled in territory to go win the game. If you look at the Memphis game, they fumbled right in territory to win the game.
Ooh.
So they lost both of those games that they should have won if they just hang on to the football. And they're sitting here 4-1 with a totally different ball game against Notre Dame because the kids are going to play harder. They're not coming off a loss to Memphis. They're not coming off 2 in a row where they feel like they had the game won and kind of gave them away at the end. It's a totally different ball game and different mindset, and your staff is still intact. So a lot happens nowadays. That's why I said it's the NFL in college. But this is not a shocker at all. Like, you knew that this was lined up and it was shaped up. And if Bobby Petrino has any success, if he wins 3, if you look at their schedule, it's a gauntlet, right? So if he wins 3 out of the Nets, whatever games they have left, 7 or 4, then they probably would promote him to the head coaching job. People keep throwing up Coach Malzahn's name because he's from Arkansas. You heard Rhett Lashley because he's played at Arkansas. So you hear all these ties to the university. And I think right now it's going to be a wait and see game. And overall for Travis, the defensive coordinator, he's a young, talented coach. And we know that he's going to fall on his feet, wherever it's meant for him to be at, because he is a talented young coach. And 2 years before this, he was up for an award. And, this year, of course, they didn't have the same talent on defense. But at the same time, do you understand this is a business at the end of the day?
Absolutely. And I think that, to your point, this story has kind of been in play without the actuality of it. When they hired Bobby Petrino, there was intention. It was a bit of a contingency plan that was in place. If Sam Pittman doesn't get this together and we have to take action mid-season, we're not floundering, putting a first-time head coach in the driver's seat trying to save a season. So it's not necessarily a surprise. I hear your point about the losses, but I think when it's a program like Arkansas, I think the Florida situation is kind of similar. and we could be getting close to seeing it be the narrative at Auburn. This isn't just specific to this season. Arkansas has been, dealt these kinds of situations, and you can always make an excuse for close losses. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a disciplined and a mentally tough team that can pull out those wins when your back is against the wall year after year after year, those excuses fall on deaf ears. And so I think it was kind of at that point where there is no excusing the reality anymore. And unfortunately, Sam Pittman was given kind of that reality was given to him this year. Heck, I think it was given to him last year as well. Like
last year, probably.
Yeah, we have to see this change. You have to get over this hump, or we have to move on. I think the athletic director making that statement he did a few weeks ago really showed their hand, where he said, I don't feel we're built to win national championships in football. If your athletic director is already thinking that way, you're looking at next steps already. But I think that Sam Pittman was so good for Arkansas in that time. Like, he was what they needed coming out of the Chad Morris era. It was in a tough place to have a guy that literally lives for that program. I mean, he is truly a ride or die Razorback fan. It brought life back into it, and it reinvigorated a program that had gotten really down and kind of discouraged. So I think the world of Coach Pittman. I totally understand this move, and it had gotten to a point where Arkansas just didn't see like they were progressing. And at some point, the only way to progress is to change. So it's the sad reality of college football these days.
You mentioned a key thing, right? You talk about one-score games. Like, that tends to happen a lot now because why? Talent is equal across the nation. It doesn't matter if group of 5 or power 4s, because there's, people can afford now to pay a roster. And if you look at Arkansas's roster, they're probably not even in the bottom top. I mean, they're probably in the bottom of the SEC when it comes to how much money they pay out towards their roster, which is shocking, right? You think about Walmart, you think about Tyson's Chicken and all the endorsements that they have, but it shows you people are not willing to get behind your program until you start showing promise.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think they feel like that promise wasn't there. You saw it towards the end of last year, and I think they was trying to give it a go this year. And I think you saw a couple of games unravel early in the year. You saw them go ahead and make that decision. But Arkansas, 19 one-loss games.
Oof.
Under Sam Pittman. Man,
I
that's tough.
mean, that's tough. And some of them are out of your hands in some regard. Some of them are straight up on you. And so that's just the reality of it. They were outgained by Notre Dame at home, 641 yards to 365 yards. So there was no longer anything that you could fight for or justify. But I would love to see Sam Pittman stick around in the SEC somehow. I mean, heck, let's have him be an offensive line, coach or I don't know, whatever you think he could potentially do it, whatever place he could do it at. I think Auburn could use the assistants, but I digress. What?
Those guys go be consultants.
Consultant. Yeah. Because honestly, at his age and with how long he's been doing it, like, let's let this be a little bit more of a relaxed regard. But he loves the game of football and he loves to compete. And if he could continue to help offensive lines, because I think that's a focal point position group across the conference right now, no one's going to deny his help. But let's turn to a couple other big results out of this weekend. We'll start with one of the marquee SEC matchups every season, and it definitely lived up to it again this year. Alabama, Georgia. You thought going into it, this was going to be the year that Kirby finally got that win over Bama. For some reason, they have just had his number regardless of success level, but Bama put it together 24-21, defeating the Dogs. And obviously there's been a lot of talk around, is Alabama a real contender? They lost to Florida State at the beginning. Florida State just got upset by Virginia Friday night. What does that mean? And then they seem to kind of find a bit more of a groove, especially Ty Simpson, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. And Georgia was dialing up a lot of pressure. You're going to get that from a Georgia front. And he really did a good job getting the ball out quickly. He was smart with his decisions, only took 1 sack. And the creativity of Alabama's offense, I really was impressed by. You've got Jeremy Bernard. You've got Ryan Williams. You gonna target Caden Proctor. Are you freaking kidding me? You're gonna put the big guy out on the edge. That poor DB saw his life flash before his eyes in that moment. Like, the creativity of that Alabama offense helping Ty Simpson develop that moxie that he needs to have in these kinds of games. And you get a huge dub over Georgia, who really kind of had all the momentum heading into that one. What stood out to you from that game?
Oh, Alabama fans, an apology. Last week, last week I said we'll find out more about Bama against Georgia. Don't talk about Monroe and Wisconsin. And they went in there and they handled the business. And they came out from the start attacking to win that game. They didn't play conservative. They took shots. They played with more of aggression. They met Georgia's energy because they know they had to after going. I think the Florida State game taught them a lot about matching energy when you go on the road, and not just the players. I think Coach DeBoer, his energy looked different. Like he was getting on the coaches, he was getting on the players. Like instead of sitting there with his arms kind of chill, this time he's being more aggressive with his staff and players. And I think he's understanding this is what he has to do at Alabama if he wants to have success. You can't play the role of I'm gonna sit back and let things happen. That doesn't work everywhere. And I think you have to be more aggressive. And on the win the game at the end, when Georgia's trying to stop you, they call a pass play into the flats. Why? Because they're not trying to give Georgia an opportunity to get the ball and go down the field and kick a field goal or whatever, send this thing out. Like they was going to win the game. And he showed a lot of belief in Ty Simpson in doing that, because he probably said, look, if it's not there, take the sack, keep the time, make him use a timeout.
Absolutely.
If it's wide open, throw it to him. And that's exactly what happened. And to me, that showed me that Alabama mindset has really changed. And this is going to be a great game between them and Vandy this week coming up. I really think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I think Bama probably pulls it out 10 or more points. But at the end of the day, the SEC is starting to separate itself.
Yeah.
They're learning a little bit more about themselves. And there are some teams that are still trying to figure it out that's in the hunt. But I was very impressed about Alabama beating Georgia. I was shocked with Georgia, though. I was shocked.
I was going to ask you, what'd you take away from Georgia in this one? Because I think everybody felt more encouraged by Bama, but did it make you hit the pause on Georgia?
No, I didn't hit the pause, right? Because it's always been a tough game for Georgia. For whatever reason, there's always one team that's your Achilles heel. Even in the NFL, you can play a team that's 1-10, but for whatever reason against you, they play lights out. It's that way. And I think because Kirby is 1-10, I guess against Bama in 11 games, that seemed to be his Achilles heel is Alabama. But Georgia showed something by coming back. They got down 14-0, and they fought right back again. And then they had a chance to take the lead. They dropped a wide open pass down the middle of the field that would have put them up 28-24. That would have had a huge outcome on the game as well. So, but you got to take field goals, Taylor. I'm still not understanding coaches that don't take field goals when you're in scoring territory. If they take that field goal, only thing you would have needed towards the end was one. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you're passing up field goal because everybody think, 4th and 2, we can get it. That's easy. 4th and 1, we'll get it. It's easy. Like, you don't always get those. If you look at the percentages, they're against you more than they are for you. So I take the points when the points are there. Stop trying to figure out the game when there's still 10, 12 minutes to go in the ball game.
I completely agree with you. It's really becoming a pet peeve of mine in college football, and they want to talk so much about the analytics book. The analytics book can't tell you the temperament of your team on the sideline. It cannot tell you what guys are in their rhythm that day and which ones are a little bit off. It can't gauge the intensity and the X factors of these SEC matchups. Like, I just don't like how we've tried to make that such a thing of numbers and statistics. There is an intangible factor to being a head coach, knowing your team, knowing the environment, knowing the situation that should lead decisions like that. And I totally agree. In that moment, I was like, why are you not getting your points in a game like this? It just didn't make sense. And you risk a lot. That it truly is a gamble. And I think that one did bite them. But yeah, the wide receivers did not do him any favors. That's also been a weird side story to Georgia in the past few years. Like, wide receiver play has not been consistent enough. And I think Gunnar Stockton is actually a very impressive quarterback. If you're getting these guys dropping all your, you can't gauge any momentum traction when things like that are happening. So definitely sets up for a big Bama Vandy game. Georgia's also going to be facing Kentucky. So we'll break those down here in just a little bit. Another huge result out of the SEC. Ole Miss got LSU, and boy, we really felt like that was going to be the case down in Oxford. Ole Miss was favored. Everyone just kind of felt like this Ole Miss offense, man, they've got something. And as we want to look to Nussmeier had a torso injury or yada yada. That LSU offense hasn't fully put it together, and so Ole Miss gets the win over LSU, 24-19, a huge marquee win for Lane Kiffin. And I mean, can we just take a minute to hype up Trinidad Chambliss? One of the best stories in college football this year. I mean, this guy was not recruited. He was a nobody. He came into this season a backup to Austin Simmons. His name gets called and he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Are you kidding? This is why college football is so much better than any other sport. But biggest takeaways from that matchup.
Well, you never know how good you are until you get given the opportunity. And he's not a young guy. He's a 6-year quarterback. And he has experience. And he's still the same guy that played at Paris Ferris College. And now he's just doing it at Ole Miss. And for him, he's a kid that's taking advantage of what's been given to him.
Totally.
Because he know how hard it is to play at that level and to get there. He's like, look, I get one shot to show everybody what I can do. And this may be my only chance. And he took the bull by the horn, and he's taking over the role. Now, I give kudos to Lane Kiffin because Lane Kiffin could have just said, hey, I'm going back with Austin Simmons, right? Because Austin Simmons has years left at Ole Miss, right? So that would have been the popular pick because you're thinking down the road. He's like, forget that. I'm trying to win now. Like, I'm trying to win now. I got to do what's right by my team because at the end of the day, your players see practice every day. Your players know their teammates. And he felt like Chambliss gave him the best chance to win. The teammates, and the captains, I'm pretty sure he talked to probably felt like he gave them the best chance to win. He went with Chambliss, and it proved him right. Another 300-yard game, 314 yards passing, 23 for 39. He had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They ran the ball, Keywan Lacey, for 23 yards. 23 carries for 87 yards. LSU offense, 254 total yards. Nussmeier, 21 for 34, 197 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Rushing the ball, their leading rusher, Harlem Berry, 7 carries, 22 yards. Like,
is that a lack of progress from LSU's offense, or do you think it was a testament to Ole Miss's defense?
Well, Ole Miss defense coming into the game was giving up a lot of yards.
I know.
So I think it's more on LSU's offense and lack thereof than it is, Ole Miss defense
figuring it out.
Because the game they lost against Arkansas fumbled the ball. Now, it was a great play by the defender to punch the ball out. He did his job, right? But when you think about overall, like Nussmeier, Heisman Trophy candidate coming into the season. That's why I don't like all these preseason hype awards, coming into the season. And then you're talking about, they're supposed to have all these dynamic receivers as well that they got in the transfer portal. And now here you are. And LSU's always been known to run the football as well. And now they're struggling to run the ball. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but if you can't convert third downs, you don't stay on the football field. And we'll get to that with everybody else. So there seem to be some similarities with some teams across the league. And then some teams like Ole Miss, I don't think anybody anticipated them being where they are right now after all the guys they lost on that defense last year.
Totally agree.
And offense, you lost your starting quarterback, Dart.
You lost your record-breaking starting quarterback. I mean, he will be in the record books in Oxford for a very long time.
Yeah. And so you lost guys. And no one anticipated them to take these guys that they have now and to be where they are. David Pollack has them in his top 4 right now at SEC to make the playoffs. I'm not sure if I'm just ready to go there yet because it's still so much season to go. But I did like his list, though, of the people he had.
Yeah. I mean, I asked you both a couple weeks ago when David came on, are we not talking about Ole Miss enough? Like early in the season, you just have these – you're trying to keep your radar open, right? Like who's showing me enough that could be the sleeper? And, for a second we thought maybe South Carolina, like he's figuring it out. Nope. Then for a second, you're like, maybe it's gonna be Arkansas. They're going to sneak up on people with Taylor Green. Nope. I think it's Ole Miss. We weren't talking about him nearly enough. And getting this win over LSU definitely shuffles the SEC landscape. And obviously, Alabama now getting the win over Georgia. You're absolutely right. The SEC starts to take shape and look very different. Another team that is riding high after an SEC win is Texas A&M in what was arguably the ugliest game I've ever watched with my two eyes for both teams. Okay. The penalties across
Oh
the
gosh.
board were so painful. And obviously, we're going to cover this one real quick because I could write a dissertation on what my thoughts are on what's going on with Auburn right now, because it is inexcusable at this point on the offensive side of the ball. And honestly, if you've been listening to Jay and I's podcast, you could just pick a random episode from last year or the year before, and I was saying the same things. And weirdly enough, the personnel is different. The problems are the same. So you can take whatever you want from that. But Texas A&M gets the win, feeling good about what they have, even though it was certainly not the prettiest. At the end of the day, Auburn is a scrappy team. Auburn is going to be one that just annoys teams, and you got to literally claw and scratch your way to a win over Auburn. And the defense is going to make your life tough for even the best offenses. But they can't move the ball. They absolutely have no offensive identity or rhythm. The play calling has no method to the madness. There are special teams issues. Auburn looks inept. And we've said that for the past couple of years. So very disappointing. You were obviously boots on the ground. So your quick take, obviously the Auburn piece of it, but also what you saw from Texas A&M, who, continues to keep a pretty solid record, especially with the win over Notre Dame as well.
Yeah, I start with the defense first for Auburn. I feel like the defense has been playing outstanding on the road these last 2 weeks, right? Like, you can give up yards, but they don't give up touchdowns.
Yeah.
And they create turnovers when a turnover is needed. These guys create turnovers. And they play a lot of young guys. Like, they play a lot of young guys. I saw in this game 2 true freshman safeties in the game with the game on the line in the third and fourth quarter on the field together. So Coach Durkin trusts his guys and trusts what he's teaching them. And they're going out and they're performing at a high level right now, which is giving us an opportunity to be in these last 2 games. It's because of the style of play our defense has been playing. Now, what does that say about Auburn? Okay, Auburn has a roster that's top 10, right? When you think about it overall, it's the top 10 roster because you go to Oklahoma, you go to A&M, and you have a chance to win both of those ball games. Even as bad as you played offensively on third downs, you get a chance to win both of those games with the ball in your hands last to go win the game, and you can't get a first down.
Nope.
Like you can't even get the drive going.
Nope.
And that shows you that the talent is here, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not even going to be that close to those games if it wasn't. Like in the Oklahoma game, the refs made some bad calls that took that game away from us a little bit. And we missed some stuff in the passing game that was open. But we still could have won that game, right? So that shows you, okay, there's talent. Now the A&M game, for whatever reason, we didn't run the ball in the first quarter by a running back at all. Jackson Arnold was the only one to carry the ball in the first quarter. Jeremiah Cobb did not touch the ball to the second quarter. We've got to put more emphasis on running the game. Jeremiah Cobb was the second leading rusher in the SEC coming into this ball game. And so you got to get your run game going. You got to get your offensive linemen settled into the game by running the ball first. And then when your passing game comes, they're not so to the point where they're used to now they feel like they're being attacked, right? Because you get to attack people when you're running the ball. I get to come off the ball and fire off. When I'm in pass set, I got to guess what's coming to me. I got to guess if there's a twist coming, is there a blitz coming? I'm guessing. So I got to react to whatever the blitz shows. So I'm not in rhythm, because we're not picking up first downs. Auburn is 3 for 28 on third downs versus the SEC over the last 2 weeks. 3 for 28. Why is that? Well, a lot of it is you're in third and long or more. You're 1 for 17 on third down in 9 or more in 2 weeks. So that means you're in 9 or more on third downs too much. That means you're not picking up positive yards on first down or second downs. That means there's too many penalties, which we talked about, too many false starts. I said this on air the other day, that if you continue to get these selfish penalties, I call them, it's the penalties that happen over and over, the false starts or the holding calls, or you continue to get these penalties that's hurting your football team, there may need to be a time that you need to be put on the bench. And I said, the reason for that is, it's not to say I'm benching you for the entire year, but I got to see if somebody else can get in there and get it done. And then at the same time, I need to see if you going to react better and figure out what it is or why you're so talented, but you keep having these false starts or these holding calls. So we got to figure it out. And sometimes to figure it out, you got to make a move. And, we'll see what happens out of the bye week. But at the end of the day, you got to be better on third downs because you're going off the field on first. I mean, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. You never get into a rhythm, then frustration settles in. So we got to become better running the football, getting positive yards on first down, and we got to become better in pass protection. And I think that helps when you're able to run the ball. And then we got to hit the plays that are there when they're open. We got to be able to pull the trigger and just let it loose. And I think if you can get those things happening, yes, you're not that far away from flipping the switch. Now, if we was getting our butts blowed out or we were getting, just pampered by these teams and it wasn't even close, it came down to one drive at the end of both of those games. So I'm optimistic that things can change, but you got to be willing to accept the change and do the change, do the work, the cause to change. So I think this bye week came at the perfect time. I think it gives us an opportunity to reevaluate where we are as a team, because coming into this season, we talked about this supposed to be the best offensive line Auburn's had since 2017. And we've looked the same as the last 3 years from an offensive line standpoint. So we got to figure out why is this? What's happening? Let's dive deeper and figure out what it is. And I know I've probably gone longer than I should have, but
no, you're fine.
It is a little bit, because you're so close. When you can see that you're so close, if you just change some things and just stop being, just.
But change what?
That's what they got to answer.
Because to your point, this is exactly what you started out this show saying about Arkansas. Mm-hmm. These one possession games, if he just had held on to the ball, if just this. We've been saying that about Auburn for years. So what does change? I'm not on the brigade of fire the heck. I'm not saying that, okay? That's what Auburn has to figure out, because, all right, you went out and you changed your quarterback. Did you get the right one? I don't know. Also, to your point about the talent, the roster's great. The personnel is great. I kind of don't give a frick how high of a recruiting class it is if once they're there, they're not developed and showing it on the field. I don't care what star you were. I don't care what resume you have. It's not producing fruit on the field. So there's a development issue. There's a disciplinary issue. Also, can't get a first down at the end. You're going 3 and out in your first drive, which is scripted. We did that week 1 versus Baylor. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say we. Auburn did that week 1 versus Baylor, 3 and out on the first drive. Do you know how long they work on the first drive in the offseason? You literally script out the play. That is the one. And same thing. How many times do you see teams get into 2-minute drill at the end of the game and you go, where the heck has this been? The offense is clicking. It's because they've worked it and drilled it so many times. Auburn can't put a first down together at the end of the game when you're in 2-minute drill. You can't get a first down in the beginning package that is scripted. There is a total miss on the offensive side of the ball right now for Auburn, which is also very confusing when you've got an offensive guy as the head coach. So there is something really amiss that has to be tended to, because I'm sorry, Auburn's got a bye week. You've got Georgia. You no longer think of Missouri as an easy matchup. You don't think of Vanderbilt as an easy matchup. You've got Bama at the end of the year. Auburn is teetering right now. If the proper response is not made, Auburn could end up with yet another losing season. Now, I don't know the last time the program has had that many consecutive losing seasons, but it's a place that is very hard to come back from.
And that's the thing, right? It's like you got to stand. This is the time to stand up, right? Yeah. And it's like you said, you're not calling for coaches' jobs or any of that, because you see
that's above my pay grade, way past me.
Yeah, like you see, this team is way more competitive, like from where we're at, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing is, to me, is, okay, if we're struggling up front, then bring in some help to figure out, along with your coaches, to figure out, like, hey, how can we fix some of these things that are happening up
Mhm.
front? Sometimes a different set of eyes helps certain things sometimes. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that, oh, you're not going to, it's just a different set of eyes. They do it in the NFL all the time.
Mhm.
People do it in college sometimes. Like, hey, take a look at this. What do you think we can do a little bit better?
Yeah.
From that standpoint. And then just, being willing to listen too. Like, listen to each other, bounce ideas off each other
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to take each other's ideas and utilize them because at the end of the day, Auburn has a chance you can rewrite the script the second half of your schedule. You
Mhm.
get two really good opponents coming to your town. You just played two really good opponents on the road.
Right.
Now you get two more to come to your town, and you can win those two in a row. It sets up the rest of your schedule like for you. Your toughest games are
Mhm.
at home outside of Vandy.
Right.
And so that's what I'm saying. You're not so far removed. There's going to be a 9-3 team in the SEC this year that's going to make the playoffs. There's going to
Sure.
be a 10-2 team, 10-2 teams. It's just the league is too hard. If you saw the Mississippi State Tennessee game, Mississippi State could have easily won that game.
Yep.
So the league is too hard
Arguably
this
should
year.
have.
Yeah, it's just too hard. But I got to get a shout out to Xavier Atkins, though, the linebacker for Auburn. This guy plays with a motor.
He was all over the field.
This guy has 20 solo tackles, second in the SEC, 29 total tackles, which leads Auburn, 3 sacks, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. This is all in a
Incredible.
matter of 5 games. So big pickup for Auburn.
Big time, big time. The transfer from LSU, if I'm not mistaken. But it was interesting during the broadcast, and obviously I'm a broadcaster, so I have grace because calling a game is so hard, you guys. Like anytime you're yelling at a TV, please keep in mind that it is so challenging. There are so many moving pieces, so I'm not blaming them at all. But I didn't appreciate they were talking, and this is why you should listen to Jason on the radio, not the TV broadcast, but I didn't have the capability because I was on a plane. Anyway, they were talking very early in the second half, probably the beginning of the fourth quarter, about Texas A&M icing the game. They kept talking about like who was about to ice it for them and how this coaching staff could just really be pulling back and drain the clock. And I was like, there is still a lot of time in this game and it's a 1-score game. Like, I don't know why we're talking about this like it's some lopsided blowout. And then Xavier Atkins takes off down the field and they're like, we still got a game. I was like, that's why you don't talk about anyone icing it to start the fourth quarter. Like, what? It was very odd. And so I think guys like that keep that in the back of their mind that like it is not over until it's over. Auburn needs to approach the rest of their season like that, not just game. And so this bye week is imperative for them because a lot needs to shift. And I also think that Lebby Moss, we talked on it last week. It felt like he was just ready for that breakout game, and he didn't get to play against Auburn last year. He was injured, and so he kind of ended up having it. But to your point, in SEC play, heck, maybe Power 4 play, Auburn's running backs have combined for 21 carries. Le'Veon Moss had 21 carries in the game against Auburn. Just to put in perspective that Auburn has really deviated from the ground attack, which makes less than 0 sense considering what you've got at that regard, and that the offensive line is better at creating rush lanes than they are pass protection. Yet you're asking Jackson Arnold to drop back 30-something times to pass. But we could do a whole episode on that, but we won't bore you guys. There were some other big ones before we turn the page on this week. South Carolina got back in the win column, defeating Kentucky 35-13. Kentucky is now 0-2 in the SEC, heading to Athens. They were outgained by over 100 yards. And like you mentioned, Mississippi State almost got Tennessee 41-34 in overtime. Mississippi State's Fluff Bothwell had 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a very competitive physical game. And again, Joey Aguilar just seems to be the right fit for Tennessee. Not perfect by any means, but he's kind of got that gusto that you need in games like that. But Mississippi State certainly a lot to respect and keep eyes on if they're on your schedule. As we turn to our weekly awards, that's a good transition for us. Let's start with SEC Standout. We'll start with the positive, someone that impressed us out of this week. And I'm going to go first because that set me up with the perfect transition. And I usually let Jay go first, and he ends up taking my answer. My SEC standout is Jeff Lebby. head coach at Mississippi State. I was fortunate enough to cover them week 1. And, everything that they have been up against at that program in the past several years, going back to the untimely and unfortunate passing of the great Mike Leach, a defensive coordinator in Coach Arnett takes over, is in over his head. They have a tough season. Jeff Lebby, first-time head coach, all the pressure in the world. They go 2-10, and you've got Tennessee on the ropes. Like, I understand people are like, but they lost. I get it. But when you look at the entirety of what they have been up against in Starkville, and Jeff Lebby is in year 2, not just year 2 in Starkville, year 2 as a freaking head coach. And he is competing in the SEC. They have such a tough schedule. Their non-conference schedule included Arizona State, who they got a win over. I am very impressed with what he was able to do, how he has attacked the portal, how he has managed his staff, how he has retained guys, how they kept guys after a season like last year is a testament to his coaching and his vision. And I understand they got the L, but I have so much respect for Coach Lebby and what he is doing in Starkville. I think the future is bright.
I like that. Coach Lebby, they lost 2 star receivers last year off last year's team. Craver, we just played against one at Texas A&M who had 443 yards in the first 4 games of the season, unheard of. Yep. And then the other one is at Missouri, so, and they just reload. I don't know where they get these guys from. They're not 5 stars. They're not all, they're just players, right? Yeah. And I think they recruit for his system. They recruit for their system and guys that fit what they do. They can care less about, who's who and all that. So I think that's the testament to them. And it's good to see Mississippi State back being a good program because they make the SEC better when they are really good. This is a game they should have won. The pick 6, the ball got tipped in the air for an interception, gave Tennessee a touchdown. And then the fumble recovery gave Tennessee a touchdown. So 14 points they gave Tennessee. So this is a team that, Texas A&M better not sleep on this week coming up. My standout is Ty Simpson.
Good one.
Because going into this game, this was a must-win for Alabama. If they don't win this game, they're count the playoffs pretty much over, right? So, and the guy showed promise against Louisiana Monroe. We was like, oh, that's Louisiana Monroe. And then he showed promise against Wisconsin. Oh, that's Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But this week, though, he showed a lot. He showed that, hey, he's really improved. And to be honest, going to Florida State, that first game is not an easy task for any quarterback.
Totally.
And everything. So, and he also has some big drops in that game by Ryan Williams, who's known to be dependable. So
that was wild.
Yeah. And he had a big drop in this game on a deep post route by Ryan. So I'm not sure what's going on there with him because he's such a standout receiver to have those many drops. But Ty Simpson, like I said, we talked about before, 26-38, 376 yards, 68% completion percentage, and 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. Didn't turn the ball over. Very precise decision, very accurate with his passes, and he led his football team. You heard his speech he gave to the guys before they came on the field. That's leadership. That's leadership, and that's those guys. He knew in order to get this team to believe in him, he needed a win like this, and he went and got it.
I like it. All right, well, we flip to the other side. SEC Siren. Who are we hitting? Not the panic button, just the siren. Alarms are ringing, and they need to tighten it up. It will surprise absolutely no one. My SEC Siren is Auburn's offense, because what the frick was that? 1 yard of offense in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
1 singular yard in the fourth quarter. You were in the game. You were in the game because of your defense. There was a line, I tweeted it. Jesse Palmer said during the broadcast, and I quote, "The offense could have stayed at the hotel and Auburn would still have a chance to win this." That was a credit to the defense, saying that these guys are flying around the field, making it tough. But it's also indicative of how absent the offense is right now. I'm very confused. Because you've got increase of talent. You've got some continuity pieces. Eric Singleton is a freak. He is such a Swiss Army knife for this team. You've got Cam Coleman, who's arguably one of the best receivers in the nation, yet he can be taken away far too easily. Why? Why are you so stuck on where you're either putting him far right or far left? Let's dial up some creativity with a guy like that if he's that good of an athlete. Malcolm Simmons, what are you doing? Why are you not jumping on that punt to get closer in field position? You just let it go over your head and go back to the sideline. You had a drop on the perimeter. There is so much about this Auburn offense that isn't just not up to standard. It's not present. It's like they are lacking some sort of identity on the offensive side of the ball. And if you don't fix it now, it never will. So Auburn offense, major SEC siren coming out of week 5.
Yeah, and I think Auburn would agree with that, right? I think that
They
if you're
should.
evaluating yourself and you're in the bye week, like you have to be first and foremost honest with yourself. Like you can't
Yep.
get in your feelings and everything and start worrying about, oh, this person's saying that person is saying this. You can't worry about that. If you are a true competitor of who you are as a coach and as a player, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, these are the things we must do better. Like
Correct.
you have to do better. If you want to be the football team that you want to be, sometimes they always say reality doesn't meet expectations. And in life, you can put expectations on something, and sometimes your reality is not living up to what you expected in your mind or expected how things look.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then keep your expectations there, but what's the reality that we need to change?
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest key for Auburn is doing that. And everything starts up front. It's just like on defense. If you ain't create pressure on the quarterback, if you can't stop the run, you're gonna get ran up and down the field on. Same thing on offense. If you can't run the ball and create shorter fields, if you can't be precise in your passing game or pass protection, that's where everything starts for me in the bye week. How do we fix everything up front first? And the other thing, don't get so worried about trying to get certain people the balls. Like let's do what you're doing early in the year, dictating to the defense what they're giving you. And then, then take your shots. Do all these different things. Like you said, yes, create more creativity. Like you said, so it was awesome. We need to create more creativity because we have the players to do it.
Yes.
But sometimes I think as a staff and as people, you can get hung up on, I got to get this guy the ball so many times. I got to get this ball so many times that it can take away your overall thought process and what you need to be doing as an offense. Great one. Mine for me was, we talked about it, LSU offense.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked enough about Kentucky. That is what it is. Like, I think it's LSU's offense for me.
Okay.
You have a guy like Nussmeier. The first game, first quarter, it's like, oh. But then I said, everyone thought Clemson was this really good football team, right? So, the way he fought and competed in that ball game and bringing them back and winning that game, we thought Clemson was a team that they had penciled in the Final Four to playoffs before the season started.
Yeah.
And now Clemson's falling off. They've been beat by Syracuse and, and just struggling a little bit, right? And Dabo's not willing to adapt to change, right? You need to adapt to what's changed. But when I look at this overall for LSU, I'm just like, man, like, where's your creativity?
Yeah.
You have all these star receivers. You got a quarterback supposed to have a really good arm. Like, where's the creativity?
You're right.
Nussmeier, come on, man. Like, some of his interceptions are like scratching your head interceptions. Like, it's not like he's just, hey, I took a shot one-on-one and ball got tipped or whatever. Like, no, sometimes he's throwing the ball right into 2 and triple coverage and everything. So
He's
I'm
too
not
veteran for that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. And there again, it's an offensive-minded head coach. And the difference, is I don't know how much involved, the coach have in it. But at the end of the day, like, they got to create more creativity. I think they focus so much on defense this all season because they was terrible last year of defense.
Yeah.
I think they put so much emphasis on defense this year that they probably forgot about, the offense a little bit. And now they're struggling offensively as well. And two teams you wouldn't expect to be struggling offensively at this point in the season is Auburn and LSU.
I totally agree.